Alright guys, such Kremp again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Scrappy and Dashy getting into it last night on a couple of topics. Angle responsibility has been a big talking point of the last couple of days, but also potentially Dashy torching some time into warm-up scrims. Scrappy wasn't so happy about it, but could they be a serious rival again between now and the end of the season, especially with OpTic making massive progress with Mercules over the last few days? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into. Just some quick reaction to yesterday's series. Of course, the Rocker got clowned on by Toronto last night. It was a classic Rocker series in so many ways. They looked kind of good, they made it kind of close, and then when it really mattered they fell short, and Kenny arguably in that series is possibly their best player. Not really where you want to be. Look, is the team better with Kenny compared to Paul? By the results, frankly, no. Is Kenny better than Paul? I think yes, I think he has been better. The big discrepancy has been that at the start of the season when Paul X was there, it was the SMGs that were actually really taken over. Especially Estriel was real good. He's definitely regressed. Nero as well. I mean, look, Nero is Nero. You know what you're going to get from him. But yeah, I think Kenny will be having some questions really because he's not making champs. That's how it looks right now. It's very, very doubtful that he's going to make it to the World Championship. And if that's true, you know, did Kenny make a big mistake coming back for the rest of the season? Does it massively matter? I don't think Kenny is like torching his stock, to be honest. I think his stock is, I mean, has it improved on the Rocker stint? Probably in the community's eyes, maybe. I think from the eyes of the pro players, it's probably not making too much difference. Kenny was getting signed next year regardless, so it might not massively matter, and he gets a couple extra months of salary, I guess. But I don't think he's intending to be on Rocker next year. We're going to talk later today about the potential of some new organisations coming in. Whether Kenny could be a man they could build around is a question. This, speaking of not making champs, is a pretty big deal here from Daryl, of course, coach of the Gentlemates. Bit of shambles of a season, and he outlined exactly why, because they've officially not made champs. This season didn't go the way that any of us wanted. We're not at champs competing where we wanted to be, and that hurts. For a group with high aspirations at the start of the year, not even getting a chance to fight is tough to sit with. Want to speak directly to the fans. I take full ownership for where we ended up. We had expectations, didn't meet them, that's on me. I wasn't the coach these players needed me to be, and I let them down. To Mark, that of course being his other coach, Marky B, everyone on the roster, you know, grateful to each and every one of you. And he says he's, you know, obviously committed to turn things around, the courage to stay accountable when things go wrong. That's what I'm committed to chasing, not just trophies, the kind of growth that lasts beyond the season and affects others. And, you know, hopefully put my blood, sweat and tears into this. Say what you want about me as a coach or a person, never gave up, I'm all in. Words don't mean much without results. Results-based business, tough chapter, and all that type of stuff. Look, the reality is there was a lot of BS going on behind the scenes there with Gentlemates that, of course, Daryl isn't going to get into in his public statement. But, you know, we'll see what happens going forward, what direction they decide to take, because, like, I'm not saying Kenny to Gentlemates or anything like that, but there's no doubt that Gentlemates probably will be blowing it up, right, like they need to after Major 4, before champs where they're not going to be there, and for the World Cup, you know, probably from top to bottom there needs to be a serious reset over there. But I guess next year they can officially get rid of the Los Angeles Grillers moniker, because they finally, last year they couldn't get the exchange merge or whatever done in time, so the CDL forced them to keep something of the Grillers name, which maybe just cursed them this year. That's one argument anyway. These are the standings, so I mean 30 points all year. They might even finish behind the Falcons, which is pretty terrible. So anyway, they're officially not at champs, of course, any longer. Rocker, Cloud9, they could still do it. Look, if you make a finals, you get 75 points. That puts you at 200, whatever happens. So, you know, it's not impossible, but it's just feasibly pretty damn unlikely. But OpTic are 40 points clear now. They've looked much better with Merc. If anything, OpTic could be looking slightly further ahead and saying, well, you know, because let's say, as I mentioned yesterday briefly, if OpTic were to make the finals, then they would be at, what, 240 points, which, you know, that could put them in the conversation for the 5th seed, potentially, depending how Miami and Ravens go. So, look, it's not necessarily over yet when it comes to OpTic having to play a really difficult first round game, but, like, the likelihood is that OpTic will be playing either Thieves or FaZe in the first rounds of the World Championship, which is not ideal, but I mean, maybe it doesn't massively matter, right? I mean, you're playing, what, Toronto, Surge, Thieves or FaZe? Like, either of those, any of those 4 games are tough, aren't they? So maybe it doesn't really matter. Just OpTic making champs would be the goal. Right now it's looking good. Rocker are actually behind Cloud9 now, even though the numbers are actually very similar, but in terms of game, win, loss, and maybe head-to-head or whatever, that's why the seeding is like this, but it's not like it massively matters right now, to be honest. It's all about this 40-point delta between them and OpTic. and again, Rocker didn't take advantage of the opportunity yesterday. This specific stage so far, this is how it looks. So Miami has started off hot. They're 4-0. And look, as I say, yeah, Miami are at 225, and OpTic could potentially overhaul that. But, you know, Miami are on a hot streak, right? So it's not expected that they're going to drop off, really. Toronto have started off strong as well. They're 3-0. FaZe are 3-1. OpTic are 2-1. And also, the map count is relevant just because if you started off, I mean, like Toronto, they're 3-0. Even if they get 3-0 smoked the last couple of series, they're still finishing with a positive map count, right? So it just, you know, at that point, you're making winners regardless. There are some teams, though, in a trickier spot. Boston are certainly one of those. You know, yesterday, getting 3-0'd in the fashion that they did, not ideal, because now they're 1-2 with a 3-8 map count, which is worse than Rocker. So for Rocker's sake, they'll obviously be hoping to make it to winners. Cloud9 are looking okay to make that happen. Thieves are still back at 1-2, but of course, they did get the 3-0 dub against Falcons, which is pretty big for their map count. It's put them ahead of Surge, put them ahead of Ravens. And of course, the other teams that are also 1-2 in terms of series. Falcons are probably cooked. Gorillas, of course, are going to be cooked. But yeah, two teams are starting and losers, and it's a really big tournament to start in winners for because, you know, it's in many respects the biggest one of the year before the World Championship for many of these teams because the online qualifiers are one thing, but there's so many points now available for the majors. I mean, in previous seasons, it was only 65, I think, for winning the major. Now it's 100. So, like, it was always going to come down to this, but OpTic will be feeling very confident after their recent performances that they should have not too much to worry about. Shotzzy was talking about, like, this Mason guy, here's him, this guy's unbelievable, and even there was this comment, which I don't know if he made it in an interview or whether it was just a bit of content that they did with him for their Wingstop promotion, but, well, they asked a question anyway to Merc, what do you think after your first weekend, and says, look, I'm just ready to get back to LAN, right? He had a good time on LAN before at Major 3, here he is at, well, Major 4 very shortly anyway, in front of the green wall. That is certainly going to be a moment in his career. He was also turning the stream on last night as well, and I think he turned the stream on and pretty much immediately had the most viewers in the Black Ops 6 Twitch domain, which is, like, not a massive surprise, but still goes to show how, you know, important it is. His clan tag here, he's made it him, which I thought was pretty good. But, I mean, look at this guy. He's absolutely beaming, right? So, look, no doubt about it. Mercules is looking great. The fans are getting behind him. The team's obviously getting behind him as well. And all of a sudden, it looks like Mercules is their best player playing with 3 world champions. So it's pretty wild. But when you look at some shots like this, look, I know that he's not playing pros in this clip, but you know what I'm saying anyway. The shots do speak for themselves. So I don't think OpTic have too much to worry about. His AR duo Dashy, though, was getting into it a little bit over the last day or so. And, well, here are a couple of examples. This was the main one from last night, right? So Scrappy tweeted out at Dashy with the egg timer, right? Like, I would call it, what do you guys call it in America? Hourglass, that's right. Like, I was calling it, okay, this is clearly not an egg timer because this would be some egg if it needed this long to boil. But, okay, an hourglass. I made that mistake before I got cloud in the comments. But, you know what I'm saying anyway. The point is that it's like, time's ticking, brother, time is ticking. Now, people were saying, oh, maybe he means time's ticking down until they're going to team up together, right? And they're going to be boys on the same team. Maybe, but I don't really think that's what Scrap's getting at here, right? I'm sure that he's pretty happy with his team, and he's not expecting that to change anytime soon. What it's more likely to do with is a bit of time torching, right? And, look, this is not an uncommon thing. There was even I think it was a video that the guys did in Madrid. Ben J was asking a few of the pros, like, who's the biggest time torcher? And obviously there were a few names that came to mind. Dashy historically, of course, has been in this type of conversation. In recent years, it's certainly been better, but, you know, it's not always perfect, I imagine. And at the end of the day, Scrap was up late on stream with Scrappy and others. We'll see a clip of that in a second the night before. And, look, who knows exactly what was going on. But Scrap was presumably, anyway, trying to get some scrims in. Now, they didn't play yesterday, of course. But, you know, so you would typically the way that it works is on a match day, the teams will warm up other teams. So that's what confused me about this just a little bit, is that I'd expect Thieves to warm up a team who was playing a game yesterday, and I'd expect OpTic to do the same thing. So not necessarily play each other, but maybe they want to get some extra scrims then, I don't know. So Dashy was talking about it in the replies. That seemed to be the implication anyway. So, look, just a little bit of just like spice between the pair, I suppose. But they were also on stream talking about Parasite's new terminology. Now, this was causing a bit of drama over the weekend, that being angle responsibility. So the idea of this is that, and maybe we can even find a clip or an example of it when OpTic played their series. So I think it was on the P4, and Parasite was talking about it on stream, that the idea in his head is that when you're trying to break a hardpoint in this way, the point is you've got to make a decision as to who is going to look at what. And I think it was the Hassie game 1 that there was lots of talk about it. Kind of moments such as this, right, when you've got to break a hill over here like P4, and you're thinking, okay, well, what do we, when we're running out here, what do we look at? Because there's a few things to look for. And like Parasite described this as angle responsibility, when a certain player is going to watch a certain heady, and maybe it's going to be predetermined what you're going to look at when you go for it, and it doesn't work out so well for OpTic. Now, this is a funny term because at the end of the day, it is just standard COD. I know that maybe Parasite wanted to give it like a terminology or whatever, but at the end, like, you're just running out onto the site as a team. It's pretty standard procedure, right? Like, I'm going to look at this heady, the other guys are going to look at this heady, and maybe you can define this type of stuff before in practice or whatever. But yeah, Parasite wanted to make it clear that he had a special name for what he wanted to call this. So anyway, the OpTic guys were talking about it. Dashy found it rather funny, this concept of angle responsibility. It was like, look, I'd prefer you call me something else rather than talk about that.
What about you guys? Like P4 Hacienda, your guys like
No, I was blasted yesterday, I can't lie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh wait, no. Yesterday
your
against
guys,
Boston.
Your guys angle, what is it? Angle responsibility.
There's angle responsibility. Wait, who said that?
You need angle training. You need angle training.
Basically.
Angle training?
Angle training.
Yeah.
You guys got to work on like being aware of what your teammates have, so you know like where to chow.
Wait,
Because,
is that? I guess I'm. Wait, are you guys that us?
against Boston on the Rock? I'm so dead ass.
Wait, angle responsibility?
Yeah, angle responsibility. Yeah.
I mean, if you just don't know what he's talking about, then that's a
you
problem.
just don't know COD.
Why does
yeah,
he just say that we're just retarded? Like, I feel like that's just a better way of saying what he's trying to say.
Exactly.
What? Am I blasted? Like, I would have much rather heard like these guys are fucking retarded. If I just heard that, I would have been like, oh, what the fuck? Like, we got to log in.
That's fair. Fair assumption.
Yeah, but then angle
Angle
responsibility?
training. Yeah, this guy's brain dead.
Wait, what are you guys talking about?
Zane, what's
The angle
good, bro?
responsibility.
Wait, I didn't even know that was a thing.
What
We
is
got to see
that,
this
bro?
clip. We got to see
What
this
is that,
clip.
in-game setting?
No, Haggy last.
But obviously, a couple of days later, it was rather better. They smoked Ravens. And look, they've only played 2 teams so far. Ravens are not good. Like, okay, they're not like terrible, but they're certainly not great by any means. And Boston, pretty up and down. They started both of the majors recently rather well. They started the year rather well. And they've scored more points than, I expected them to going into this season. But yeah, lately they're looking, a little bit rougher around the edges, to say the very least. So I want to see Mercules play a proper team, as it were. Like, they've played proper teams, but like they've not played real top competition. And we are going to see that from OpTic very, shortly, especially this Toronto game. This is a real exciting one for multiple reasons, mainly because it's the Mercules Bowl, or whatever you want to call it. He played for Toronto at the last major. They won very convincingly a lot of the time with Mercules in. They've now brought Beans back into the team, and now OpTic have Mercules instead. So it's going to be a fascinating series. Beans is going to want to make it clear that, they made the right call keeping him. Mercules is going to want to prove. And also, it could be important for seeding. It's pretty unlikely. I mean, OpTic's other game is Gentlemate, and at that point, they're purely there to play spoiler. OpTic shouldn't underestimate them too much, because as terrible as they are, they do still have some talented pieces. But I think Merc will be feeling confident that he can single-handedly take those guys down. But the Ultra Series is going to be the fascinating one that's going to tell us potentially quite a lot, because that is going to be final series going into the major for OpTic. Could be a telling one whether OpTic, maybe even Ultra could end up the #1 seed as a result of that series. Maybe OpTic wouldn't be too far away either. So that's a big series to keep your eyes on. Very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.